Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Kev, Kings, and Tom. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on this wonderful Wednesday evening. Soon to be back again in the Premier League in a couple of days' time, hopefully against Brentford now. So we are very excited for that. Before we get into everything, lots of news to get into today. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like and subscribe. Make sure you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. If you're currently watching us on Twitter or X as it's known now, please do jump over to our YouTube page and hit the like or subscribe button while you're there. It really does help out the channel. We really appreciate it. The link is in our bio on our Twitter page. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. So we leave the biggest bit of news, which is the United hijacking, to the end of the stream, because I want to get into that a little bit. I think it's a little bit of waffle, but we'll see everybody's thoughts on it about the deal with Mamardashvili, and we'll have a look at some of his stats as well. There'll be a lot of stats in this episode. Yes, Jim Hughes, Kev TV is back. He hates us saying it, but sure, look, he's here. We might as well pump the advertising while he's here and get our money's worth. He costs a lot. He costs more than Fabrizio Romano does for his cameos, so we gotta make the most of him while he's here. But the first thing that we're going to move into is possibly a new centre back being found. It was reported earlier today from Sky Sports in Germany that Liverpool still maintain a serious level of interest in the Leipzig centre back, Mohamed Simakan. He's 24 years old. He's currently with RB Leipzig at the moment. Quoted on transfer market as about 35-40 million euros, which realistically isn't the worst thing in the world. It's kind of similar to what we paid for /𝗟𝗢𝗻𝗏 𝗏𝗏 back in the day. And he's turned out all right, considering that was the last French centre back that we bought from RB Leipzig. It's said that he's open to making that next step, and he will be keen on a move. So it's something that could be interesting, especially considering the news about Sepp van den Berg leaving, with a more than likely higher fee than what we would have gotten from the likes of PSV or something like that. So very interested to see that. With Simakan, he's 6'2", 6'3". Interestingly, he's played a lot of centre back and right back, which is a bit like Sepp, considering. So that could be a direct Sepp replacement, and Gomez could still keep around, and it could just be a like for like swap. Tom, Mohamed Simakan, French centre back for RB Leipzig, seems like a Liverpool Edwards type signing, where it's just someone that was linked ages ago, all went quiet, and then now all of a sudden is walking through the door. Not that he is yet, but it could be very interesting to see how this plays out by the end of the transfer window. Have you watched much of him? What do you think of him as a player, or do you know anything about him at all?
I'd be lying if I said I've ever watched him play. But yeah, it's got a Liverpool sign written all over it. To be fair, it's our kind of price range, and it'd be like that 40 mil kind of price range. Obviously, Bundesliga, we quite like shopping in the Bundesliga. Quite optimal kind of age, early 24. Just coming into his prime. So yeah, he ticks a lot of boxes, and he ticks a lot of boxes, like I said, in terms of the kind of profile we normally go for. But I personally, I don't think a centre-back has bigger priority as others think, especially if Gomez sticks around. You still got Kwanzaa, Kanate, Van Dijk there. I think full-back was sound, to be honest. So Gomez can kind of cover that centre-back as the main kind of position that he covers. So you got 4 good options at centre-back. And obviously Nat Phillips is in a kind of emergency 5th option. So I don't think we're as desperate for that position as we need, as people think, sorry. But yeah, like I said, this transfer is kind of one that's got FSG and Liverpool written all over it in a way.
Yeah, I think the only reason that I'd say we'd be a little bit desperate, not desperate, but could want for a signing something like this, is just Konate's injury record. And I looked it up just out of sheer curiosity, and Simakan, since November 2021, which is 3 years ago now at this point, he's missed 8 games. And none of them were serious injuries. It's all been a 1 game, a 2 game, a 1 game, and he missed 2 games with the flu at one point. So it's not as if it's any muscular injuries or anything like that. But just to look at a couple of bits here on what he is like, I'm going to pull up a couple of bits here, and we'll start getting into my favorite part of streams, which is a lot of the numbers on things. So give me 1 second now. We'll get everything loaded up here, and we'll get rid of this brand, and we'll all have a look at everything here. So as you can see from this, I'll zoom in on it a little bit. We have Simakan in the blue, which is the smallest one inside. We have Van Dijk in the red, Konaté in the green, and Kwanzaa in the sort of yellowy green, then lime green on the outside. If I'm getting them colours wrong, don't blame me. I'm half colourblind. But, Kev, do you want me to zoom in a little bit more for you?
No, it's all right, mate. I just like looking at it, getting into it. Sorry, mate.
No, you're grand. I just thought it might have been too small. But looking at this, I'll come to you first, so Kev. Look, this is only one of a couple of the slides that I have ready for this,
Thanks.
and I'll get the rest of them. It seems that he kind of fits the profile right. He seems to be good on the ground, good in the air, carries the ball, passes the ball with his progressive passing, his forward passing percentage seems to hit the marks, and his defensive actions seem to be between the Konaté and Kwanzaa range. With this particular stat, defensive actions is based on how often they are defending. So if you look at Kwanzaa, Konaté, and then Van Dijk, the better the defender, the less defensive actions that they have to do. So this would be like how often they'd go to ground, how often they'd be involved in slide tackles, that kind of thing. Van Dijk never does that because he's always positionally aware that he never has to. So that's why, and as well, possession plays a part in it as well. So it seems that he kind of fits the mold a little bit, wouldn't you think, just from looking at that? And I'll pull up another slide for you as well, just to have a look at here for this. This will be him against all other Bundesliga centre-backs. So I'll share this again, and this is where he would rank against all other Bundesliga centre-backs. Touches into like ridiculously attacking-minded, first of all, and then obviously dribbles, duels, crosses into goalkeeper's box, crosses, acceleration, through passes and goals. Seems to be a very ball-playing, progressive centre-back, which, as we very recently found out, is what Slot kind of likes. So would you be of a similar thought process to Tom, thinking that this is probably an FSG-style transfer? Cheap, Bundesliga. Last time we bought a centre-back from RB Leipzig, turned out pretty well.
Yeah, and look at the team that we're dealing with, another Red Bull, and we have a really good affiliation with them. So it continues that link. So everything's all linked in correctly. The only thing, you look at that, and it is going to be driven based. It's going to be data driven. And if he's hitting all the numbers that Edwards and Hughes are looking at, then he will be one of those that will be on the profile to bring in. I think it's an upgrade on a Nat Phillips, although Tom says he's decent to have as fifth choice. I wouldn't have him even for the under 8s. That's how bad I think Nat Phillips is. And that's just going off one game I saw against Celtic last season. But he is very progressive, and he looks as though it fits what we actually want. He's good in the air. He's good at interceptions, his aerials as well, which is what Slot likes. And he might have a better aerial than what Kwanzaa has. So, it's fair, the competition. It is going to be required. The only downside is that he can play right back as well. And I think we're over, I'd sooner if it was more a left back, because then you could cover two positions rather than us going, right, we're going to get a centre back, and now we're going to have to get a left back. That's the only downside to him. I've seen him once or twice last season in the Bundesliga, and he is very, very progressive for the centre half, which is more than what I was expecting, to be honest, when I did see him. Having said that, though, he carries the ball well, and he likes to have a shot as well if he's in and around the box. That's what I'd like to see. He's tough. He's tackling. He intercepts. It's on data-wise, profile-wise, he's probably hitting everything, and there's probably a higher ceiling with him as well, possibly, than what at present and what we're going to get with Van der Berg. With him leaving as well, and as I say, if Gomez goes, then he will be one that I will be looking to bring in to cover. But the only downside is, as I've said, he covers right back, he doesn't cover left back. So that's the only downside I have. But that's the only thing I can bring up. Other than that, I'll be quite happy with him. He's young enough, he's progressive enough, and he would fit the profile that Slot is probably looking for as well.
Yeah, it would, and we obviously see Jamie was mentioning Inacio that'll probably be the best shout for a left-sided centre back and a left back that can play there. With Sporting being notoriously hard to deal with, Jamie, thankfully there's been an awful lot of reports saying they're willing to let him go for an awful lot less, or the original release clause fee, which is the 40 million euro, which would be about 37 million pounds thereabouts. And apparently, if Portuguese sources were to be believed, Inácio was the same agent as Bruno Fernandes, who was over at United negotiating his deal, and apparently took a stop off in Merseyside on the way home, and was apparently discussing details with us about a deal. But Kings, looking at the numbers that are here again, this is defensive duels 1 across the bottom and aerial duels 1 going up on the other axis. And I'll just zoom in on it here. Considering the two of them played in the same league last season, with Sepp van den Berg here and Simakan here, he's also on the same level as 𝗗𝗥𝗢𝗣𝗣𝗘𝗗. It seems to be that it would really fit the profile that we want. And this is Lacroix, who we had people complaining about earlier in the group chat, saying that we should have been going for him rather than Palace going for him. And he seems to hit numbers a little bit better than a lot of them. So I'd imagine Konaté would have been down here a little bit and excelled up. Konaté is not really that far ahead of him. Maybe a percentage or two in his ground duels and maybe about 5% in his aerial duels. Realistically, that's very feasible numbers to make up when you look at it. And then when we come over to his progressive passes per 90 and his possession adjusted interceptions per 90, he kind of sits right in the middle. So he's a good balance of everything. What would you think of him as a signing? Obviously, Kev mentioned that he doesn't really cover the left side much, so it'd probably mean we're trying to get a left back as well.
Well, first off, I'm going to say I'm very impressed, actually, Stephen, with all his stats and everything, because when James and everything's on, we don't get this. So. That's not pissing James at all, but this is really interesting to see it on the screen, actually, in front of you, so you actually can see, instead of just saying, oh, he's got this particular duels against particular players, you can see it in front of you, and it's the first time I've really looked at this player. As Tom said, I don't really know him. I don't follow the Bundesliga that much, but I'm kind of with Kev and Tom, to be honest, on this. Yes, it does seem like an FSG signing. We know that Edwards, with his previous company after leaving Liverpool, is all about the stats and the inside of the player, kind of. They want to know every little detail about them to see if they're the right fit for a particular club. That's what they were doing. Now he's come back to Liverpool, and he's going to obviously use that knowledge that he's got on so many players to say, right, this is the perfect player, because there it is. There's the stats, the numbers. Looking at the way he is against Van den Berg, I mean, originally I was thinking, bring him back, use him. If he's highly thought of, use him. But straight away, it's become apparent that he's not wanted at Liverpool. He's quite happy to move on. There's a deal obviously out there, looks like between 1 or 2 clubs, maybe to take him, up to £25 million. It's like, okay, fair enough, let him go. It's a typical FSG move. It seems to be sell, then you can have a player maybe. We've got used to it. We might not like it that way, but they're going to make 40, 50 million pound potentially this summer, then go, right, you can have him for 35 million. That's just the way they work. Whether he's the right fit, it does seem that way. But looking at Van Dijk and 𝗟𝗢𝗦𝗘𝗥, to be fair, I do like that lad. He does seem a really good up-and-coming young player. He's getting more and more game time because Konaté does have injuries. If we can get this lad in, then between the 4 of them, I think we've got a pretty strong defence. I'd love to say we're going to buy a Virgil van Dijk number 2 and have the 2 of them side by side and be fantastically impregnable almost. It's like you can't get past them. But we're never going to find another Virgil van Dijk, are we? He's a one-off. Yeah. So I think Kwanzaa can grow more into the role by learning off Van Dijk. Yeah. And then this guy can come in and gradually start to integrate himself in. And looking at his stats there, I think he could be a decent signing.
I think so as well. And just as we were talking as well, Harvey Blair has been sold to Portsmouth for £300,000. David Lynch just confirmed that there. Was posted in our group chats. That's why I throw it up here. I suppose that answers one of the questions for one of the young fellas we were going to talk about later. As in...
I'd have kept him, I would have.
No, I personally myself, I didn't see him making it through. There's a number of them I didn't. It's to be honest with you, it's not really surprising considering a new manager comes in and kind of cleans house with the under 23s of who's going to keep and whatnot. Then looking at a couple of other stats in relation to him, I just sort of go off on him a little bit. if we take a look at Simakan here, this is a different site altogether now. This is FBREF. And this is probably one of the best sites that we have. This is a little extension that I have that allows you to sort of look at these pie charts this way. So if we go and compare Simakan, and we're just going to bring up Sepp van den Berg, it seems like he might be a bit of a direct replacement for him because he seems to be also an improvement on him, which is very interesting to see. That it's one of these. Now, this is Sepp van den Berg versus centre backs. Now, if we clear this completely and take a look at Simakan versus fullbacks, he's way better defensively than an awful lot of fullbacks, and seems to be very progressive in his passing as well, which is really good to see. Which seems to hit an awful lot of the metrics that we have. And if we take him and take a look at him against the likes of Konaté, seems to be way more progressive than Konaté in his attacking side of things, which is nuts for a centre half. Similar in almost nearly identical in how the pattern shapes for his passing and progressive passing, and the defensive side of things seem to be just very similar as well. And then we'll take a look at the unicorn himself, and Van Dijk is just nuts all over. Aerials 99 percentile, the percentage of dribblers tackled 99 percentile, touches near up in the 90 percentiles. His progressive passing and passing completions is out of this world, and he's great with an assist or a goal as well compared to other centre backs. It's really interesting to see how these numbers pop up. And this is similar to what the likes of Edwards and Co will be working off of. Obviously, it's not the exact same, but it's at least a window into their world, so to speak. And it's just very interesting to watch and look at. But yeah, it's one of them that I could very much easily see happening. And hopefully it does, because I'd be very, very happy with him coming in. But we are now going to move on to the next part of this stream. And just before we do, please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure to have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. And if you're currently watching on Twitter or X, as it's known now, make sure to jump over to our YouTube page. The link is in our bio, and make sure to drop a like and subscribe while you're there. Very much appreciated. But moving on to a couple of other topics. Sepp, we were speaking about him a little bit as seeing as we were looking at possibly his replacement in Sepp van den Berg. Been reported that deals have been accepted between both Leverkusen and Brentford, and it's basically down to the player now to choose where he wants to go. He's spoken to both Thomas Frank and Xabi Alonso, and it's really down to him at this point where he goes. Kev, if you were in Sepp's shoes, where are you going? Are you going to Brentford, stay in the Premier League, live in London, be paid a little bit more, or are you going to go to Leverkusen and play Champions League football?
I'm playing under Xabi Alonso. That's where I'll be going. I think that will be a foot. It'll be a similar... Instead of going to Brentford, which I think would be beneath a Liverpool, I think to match and to see how well he does, I'd be pushing myself and saying, well, screw yous, I'm going to go to Bayer Leverkusen. I'm going to show you what I can actually do and play. And that's where I would be if I was Sepp. That's the kind of mindset I'd have. And hopefully he does well. I'll be watching him next season. It'll be intriguing to see how well he does. I didn't spend much time of watching him last season when he was on loan, but I was made up when we did sign him from Zwolle. I thought he was, from the Ajax academy, and he was well thought of as a youngster. And he came in. And I thought, right, sound. Let's see what we can do for you. It hasn't worked out for him. It hasn't panned out for him the way it may have done. But that's down to different people at different levels. It takes people a little bit longer than others to progress and to show what they've actually got. But no, I'll be happy for him to prove us all wrong that he can actually do it. And I think going back to Germany would be a better option for him than staying in the Premier League, which I'll be honest, Brentford, I'll be definitely going to Bayer Leverkusen, mate, defo.
Yeah, to be honest, I think Brentford might be one of the teams to go down this season. Tom, would you be of a similar opinion to Kev, or do you think stay in the Premier League, best league in the world, you might get more playing time with Brentford and you might be able to showcase your skills a bit more there?
Yeah, I don't think there's even a decision to make, to be honest. Xabi Alonso's best young manager in the world. You go into, arguably the best team in Europe from last season. play some amazing football. Obviously, Champions League. Obviously, he did well. It was Mainz he was at last year, wasn't it? So
yes, Mainz,
So he's obviously kind of made a name for himself in the Bundesliga. So to continue in that league and progress himself in that league might be a good idea. So yeah, I don't think there's any kind of dilemma there for him, to be honest. Obviously, he's got no future here, really. You know, he's been here 5 years. He obviously doesn't feel very valued by us, 5 years down the line, and he's still not particularly close to making it into the first team, really, as he's starting 11, let's be honest. So it's the right time for him to move on, and I think Leverkusen would be a great shout for him.
Yeah. It seems to be a general consensus, Kings, that Leverkusen is probably the best shout. Good manager, Champions League football, that kind of a way. What do you think yourself? Would you be staying in the Premier League, going to London, playing for Brentford under Thomas Frank, or do you think it's a bit of a lost cause there and probably Leverkusen is the better shout for his career going forward?
Yeah, it's a hat trick of agreements, to be honest, because yes, we've all got a soft spot for Xabi Alonso, obviously, for what he did playing for us, and it would have been, I think, fantastic if he'd have come back as a manager. And I still think at some point he will come as a manager. I hope, anyway. If he continues the way he started, I think he's going to be something special. As for Van der Berg, I think if he goes to the Premier League, it's a hard league to play in. It is so-called the best, but it is a hard league to play in. And whether he'll get a lot of time at Brentford, I don't know. Where I think Alonso would take him there possibly and nurture him differently and better. As Tom said, he's used to the Bundesliga, so he knows what he's going into straight away, so he's going to be more comfortable. And I think he'd settle there quite easy. And for him, I think it would be the best move. For Liverpool, as I said, if they're going to get 20, 25 million for him, then it's... I suppose we're going to talk about, obviously, some of the youngsters that Klopps left behind that Slot's now got. We'll do that shortly. But he's probably of the last generation of the youngsters before this new lot we're going to talk about. And as we know, it doesn't matter if you've got 20 youngsters or 50 youngsters or whatever in behind the scenes. Only a handful, if they're lucky, are going to make it at Liverpool. They might bring in 50 and they're all fantastic prospects, but we all know because of different scenarios, different managers, different coaches, only a few are going to make it. And that's proved it with Sepp van der Berg. He just kept going out on loan. He's now gone to the point we don't need you. And I think for him to get his career back on track, maybe in Germany and Champions League again, and as the two lads have said, the way Leverkusen played last year, such a fantastic run of games, and they obviously played in such a style that they just blew everyone else away in the Bundesliga and in the Champions League to a point. And I think he'd thrive there better and have that attitude. Yes, I'm going to show you how I can play. So we'll have to just see, really.
Yeah, it's one of them that we will just have to see, and I kind of agree with Paul that Alonso might end up managing Real Madrid before he'll come to us, unfortunately, because I think 𝗟𝗏𝗧's going to be here for 9 years, 10 years. If he's successful, he will be. And
I was going to say, if he keeps winning, that's what we need, yeah.
Yeah, if he keeps winning, keep him. Lifetime contract. Same as Klopp. Yeah. Keep him. Lifetime contract. I have no problem with that whatsoever. If I don't care how he wins, as long as he wins. That's the way that I look at it. Trophy still sits the same way in the trophy cabinet, even if you win, no matter what way you win it. But it is. I think it's a quartet of agreement here, Kings. To be honest with you, I'd be picking Leverkusen as well. Knows the Bundesliga, was one of the best under 24 centre backs in the Bundesliga last year. Playing in a very progressive system under Alonso, he may end up playing as a centre back on the right hand side and feeding the likes of Frimpong and being instrumental to that side of things. Alonso's one of the best managers in the world currently at the moment. He's joining the best team in the Bundesliga. He's going to be playing Champions League with the Bundesliga team. It's a less stressful schedule, and they take 4 weeks off at Christmas, because if anybody's industrious, it's the Germans. The way that they go about things. It's absolutely nuts to see how many players have come through the academy, and something that actually myself and Dan, one of the other hosts, was talking about that's usually on Sundays or post game. We were saying that what would be the success rate for the academy, and we were kind of agreeing on about 10%, and then I was like, hold on a minute now. Valencia 𝗗𝗥𝗢𝗣𝗣𝗘𝗗, Jarell Kwanzaa, Conor Bradley, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, asterisk, James McConnell, Stefan Bajcetic, Tyler Morton, Bobby Clark, Luke Chambers, Owen Beck, Nalo, who's another one that's coming through now, Trey Neone, we got him from Leicester a year ago, but still.
Jaden Dans as well.
Jaden Dans, Lewis Kumas. Who else am I missing now? I'm probably missing.
Is it Ben Doak as well?
Yeah, Ben Doak is another one. Jaros, another one. And then you have some guys that are with the under-21s currently at the moment in Trent Cohn-Doherty. And then you have Nalo as well, as I mentioned. Realistically, I've named nearly 11 there that could start, that we could make a first team 11 out of and probably finish mid-table. Yeah. Like that's an absolutely hilariously high hit rate for an academy. And Cade Gordon, Paul Smith, thank you. That's another one that's mentioned there. It's somebody we'll be mentioning now in a moment. But it's mad to think that we have that many academy prospects and graduates in the first team. You have Conor Bradley, Trent, Jones, Kwanzaa, Kelleher. There's the 5 to 6 there alone. That's half of a team, and all playing different positions. It's not like other than obviously Bradley and Trent, but like it's a fantastic thing to see. And something that myself and Dan said is that all of this money that was pumped into the academy, and Tom, you're going to hate me for saying this, but that may end up in Liverpool not being as busy in transfer markets as they would have been in previous years. And obviously we haven't signed anybody yet this transfer market, but it leads me down the path to think that we're going to be even more self-sufficient in the fact that we'll be bringing players up through the academy and then fine-tuning 1 or 2 positions in a transfer market to then complement the guys that we're promoting, which is why you see the likes of that Rio kid from Chelsea coming over to us, because he's looking at the way Chelsea's treating their academy players. Raheem Sterling just got his number taken off him, and has been worn by the guy just in the door. Trevor Chalobah as well. I think he's a prospect with them that came up through the academy. He just got his number taken off him. They've seen how they treated Conor Gallagher, who has been there for 18 years, and they just threw him out the door the first chance they got. Madueke is another one. They said, we'll sell him for 60 million. And he's kind of like, what's going on here? And they just continuously bring in more players and more players. And they're still even looking at more wingers than Jadon Sancho, apparently, if sources are to be believed, which I think is comical. And you see guys leaving that academy. One guy left the Arsenal academy as well and went up to United. Rio left the Chelsea academy and came up to us, because there's a means to an end, it seems, where you're either going to make it to the first team or we're going to loan you, and then if you're not good enough, we'll sell you and you get into a first team somewhere else. You're going to end up playing first team football either with us or elsewhere, and that seems to be the attraction part of it. But we'll move on to the kids now, and Tom, I'll come to you first. I list out the names, and obviously one of them has already been confirmed with Harvey Blair, so we'll go with the rest of them. So it's keep, loan or sell, and Ben Doak, Cade Gordon, Tyler Morton, Marcelo Pitaluga, Callum Scanlon, Owen Beck, Stefan Bajcetic, and James McConnell. Out of them, who are you keeping, who are you selling, and who are you loaning?
I'm definitely keeping Bajcetic, I think, even though he could do with the game time. I think we're so limited in that position that we kind of have to keep him, to be honest, as another option. So I'll be keeping him around. Tyler Morton, I think, again, he could probably do with a loan again, but because we're so short in that position, it's one of them. Do you keep him? I don't know. I'd probably just about keep him, like I said, just because of the shortage of options in there. Ben Doak, I'd definitely be loaning. Definitely a lot of potential there, but a lot of improvement needed. So I think some game time to kick on. Who's the others you mentioned? Sorry.
I have Doak, Gordon, Morton, Pitaluga, Scanlon, Beck, Badge, and McConnell.
Yeah, McConnell, I'd be loaning. I think there's potential there, but again, not going to be anywhere near the team. Gordon, again, potential, but not going to be near the team, so loan. Owen Beck, I see a lot of potential in him, but again, not going to be near the team.
Anywhere near the team.
Again, it's a loan. Scanlon, I don't really know enough about him, to be honest with you, so couldn't really tell you on that one. Is that it?
Yeah, that's about it. I'll take what you know what I'll do. I'll take it here and I'll pin it in the comments because it'll just be easier then, because then everybody can have a quick look at it. I think that's pretty much everybody.
Yes, 𝗟𝗢𝗘𝗏𝗥 as well. 𝗟𝗢𝗏𝗥 got loan as well. I heard very good things about him.
Yeah,
So,
I've watched him myself. He was playing in Ireland with Shelburne. Is it Shelburne? I think it's Shelburne. While here, or St. Patrick's Athletic. It was St. Patrick's Athletic, excuse me, I think is who he was playing with. And I watched him. He hilariously didn't look the tallest of guys in the goal, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I'm taller than him, and I'm only 6'4", like. I say only, but it's for a keeper, he doesn't seem the biggest. Kings, I'll throw it over to yourself as well now. Out of that gaggle of players, who are you keeping, who are you loaning, and who are you selling?
Well, to be honest, I'm gonna agree with Tom on pretty much everything, because, as we said, they're not going to get in this side as it is. Most of them, Bajcetic maybe would have fleeting appearances. He really does need to build up his strength and everything again, and get back into a routine of playing regular football. The others, there's no harm, I don't think, in sending pretty much all of them out on loan. Which level they go to is a different thing. I mean, whether Championship, maybe League One would take, League One would definitely take them. Championship, I'm not sure. It's quite a competitive league in there. But they really could do with game time and seeing how they handle men's football, if you like, to see, when them rough tackles do come in, can they handle it? Can Ben Doak, when he's got real tough defenders, not under 21s or whatever it is up against him, if he's got two burly defenders who've been around the block and they know what they're doing coming at you, is he going to be as good and as clinical? Yes, he might not. He might have a natural finish that he's good in front of goal, but whether he can get past defenders like that, and it goes for them all really, whether they're wingers, defenders, in whichever level. If they've got full-time men coming at them, then I think it's a different prospect to what it is under 21s, under 18s, etc. And only then really can you start to see their proper development, and are they good enough? And you'll probably find then, obviously, it's a guess, but 50% of them will probably drop by the wayside, because they'll just go, yeah, you're good and you're quite talented, but you're not talented enough, which sounds harsh, but to be at the very top, which Liverpool are, amongst the top 5 or 6 all the time, to play for a team like Liverpool, it's, Trent will tell you, yes, he's a local lad and he's got through, same as Gerrard and a few others, but it's few and far between that the best get thrown away. The rest get put to one side, and the very best get through if they're good enough.
Yeah, I was watching a podcast the other day, and they were saying that they had an unaired episode. Can't remember the name of it, and they said that they had a newly promoted centre back on it, and they asked, "What's the difference between Championship level and Premier League level?" And they played Liverpool, and he said the second he seen Trent play a pass, it questioned whether he was good enough at football or not. That is the level of difference between it, that a Championship guy that just got promoted seen Trent play a pass and he was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And it just left him bewildered, questioning his own existence. Like, that's the level that we're considering here. The top 0.1% of players are what will be the elite of the elite. That kind of a way. And it's you're perfectly right, Kings. We need a lot more time, Tom as well. Need a lot more time with an awful lot of these players. The only one that I've really no problem with selling is Harvey Blair, because to be honest, I don't have a problem with selling any of them other than Stefan Bajcetic. The rest, I don't think will get a look in the team, because they'll be 4th or 5th choice. And I think Ben Doak probably as well will be the only one I keep as a loan, because he very clearly has the physical gifts. It's just a matter of developing his body into, as you mentioned, Kings, a grown man. He needs to be able, like, if you think about it, if he goes and he starts playing and he comes up against somebody that's the height, like, we all joke about Harry Maguire as a defender and that he's a bit of a dope, but he's a big thick lump that just gets in your way, and if you're not able to get past him, well, then he's done his job. And it's hard to move somebody that's that physically big and strong in the first place, unless you're unbelievably gifted. It is just one of them.
look back to. Oh, sorry, I was going to say look back to someone like Steven Gerrard. You know, his early part of his years under Gerard Houllier, he was struggling. He was in and out as a youngster. You know, his body hadn't developed enough for men's football, and he was struggling when he had to take time away and recover and come back. Now, thankfully, as we all know, I'm glad that he did get everything sorted, and he came back bigger, stronger, and became arguably the best midfielder in the Premier League era. You know, but it just shows when you're younger, your body's got a lot of developing to do. And it's not a case of, well, he's very good and he's going to make it. There's a lot of variables in there. So it's just working out when to loan, when to sell, when to keep, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's just a couple of comments here that I'll throw your way, Kev. We've obviously, Jamie was here mentioned that only a handful, to be honest, I could probably count them on one hand. I can't even think of any that have left the academy and then gone on to do very well elsewhere. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure you might be able to think of someone, refresh my memory. And then just imperfection here, stating, what about rotating players, though? Felt the kids were actually decent to use in FA Cups, etc., to rest first team. I think that was more down to injuries, if anything else. Like that Carabao Cup final, we had no choice, in my own opinion. But, Kev, I'll throw it over to yourself for your opinion on it with the players that we mentioned. Ben Doak, Cade Gordon, Tyler Morgan, Uga, Scanlon, Beck, 𝗖𝗟𝗢𝗦𝗘𝗥, McConnell and Blair. What do you think about them? Should they be kept for rotation, or do we need to see more time?
No, I'll be honest. You need to be. We are seeing a ruthlessness with this. It's like a new lion that comes in and takes over his pride. He then is ruthless with everything and kills everything off. A lot of these players, and I mentioned it the other week, that Ben Doak would be one of. I thought the ruthlessness would stop with just Ben Doak, but you see the severity of what we're doing now. There's only probably on that list I'd put Bajcetic on loan, Tyler Morton on loan, and I think Owen Beck. All the rest be sold, but release clauses with certain ones, with the likes of Ben Doak. Release clause with probably 𝗬𝗘𝗏𝗧𝗏 as well. Cade Gordon as well. I think he hasn't helped with his injuries. As he's been missing for the last 18 months from the first team when he's played. Not many of them. There's less than 5 appearances. Am I right? Or maybe more because of Ben Doak, of first team appearances of those players. Of any.
Peterloo is very barely played, and there's a number of them there.
Exactly. So when you take that into account, we have to do similar to what Chelsea do with theirs, is send them out on loan. The reason why we're getting that Chelsea player is you look at the journey he's had with Chelsea, but then you look at what Liverpool did last season, and we win a Carabao Cup with the youth team, and that kind of makes him think, wow, there's a pathway there to get in, and it's one of the reasons why he chose us, which is great. But I agree with what Moose said before. Inglethorpe needs a recognition for what he's done with our academy, and it's not surprising now that he's linked in with Slot at the start of the pre-season. So this is where the ruthlessness started, and I think that's where they've gone right. How many of these? I know I think our academy's worth about 350 million potential or something like that in money. Round about that. So you've got to utilize that. And unfortunately for a lot of people, what's the point of having an academy if we keep going out buying players when we can be self-sufficient, as you've said? And that's the whole point of an academy, is that we bring players through. It's a bit like why everyone was envious of the Ajax system. If you look at the last team to have a full starting 11 from an academy, I think it's Barcelona under Pep, in which virtually every player, apart from one which they had to buy from United, the centre back, everyone else came through the academy, and that's what you're looking for. That's in essence why you should have an academy. Not a lot of people like that. You bring a few players in that the academy can't produce, but no, that you've got to be ruthless with these. I keep Tyler Morton because of his potential, I think, and how well he's played in the Championship, and how well he's played for Hull at the end of last season. I thought he played well, linked up well with Carvalho. Send him out on loan. 𝗬𝗘𝗏𝗧𝗏, for common sense reasons, had severe injuries, hasn't played all that much, needs to get that back up. I'd send him on loan to Leipzig, as James has said, or where Pep Linders is, and send them there. Yeah, Salzburg. Send them there. Build up is game time. Not under the lights of the Premier League or anything like that. Just away from it and just get your head down, get a few minutes. The rest, I'll be honest, I'll see you later. And if we can put release clauses in, we put release clauses in, and it'll end up bringing us back some money, like it happened with Sri Lanka. I don't think many people realised that we had a release clause with them, or forgot that we had, and that's the whole purpose of it. We've talked about it before. Less than probably 1% of these players through the academy will actually make it into the first team, and this is where you make your money, and that unfortunately is how we have to do it, and it's ruthless. But a lot of these players have the mentality and should have the mentality to have a good career elsewhere, but not at the top level, which is what we need at the present moment. It's different from 5-10 years ago before Klopp came, because a lot of these players would have been kept and brought through. We've moved on and we've upgraded the way we play, the players that we've got, and how in the hierarchy we are. We have to have the best, and that's why we've gone for Chelsea's young academy player, who is one of the best players in England, by the way. So it'll be exciting to see him, but we've got to be ruthless. If you're not setting up to the plate, sadly you get moved on, and we'll make money off you. That's the way it's got to be. Sorry.
No. You're 100% correct. And the way that I look at it currently at this moment in the transfer window, from 3 sales, which is Fabio Carvalho, Fabio Carvalho, Bobby Clark, and Sepp van den Berg now, with this extra money on top of it with the add-ons. And then the near 10 million that we just got from Solanke, we've brought in 70 million quid on 3 sales of fringe players that are at least third, if not more, in the depth chart of where their positions are, if not deeper. The only reason I say Sepp is third is because he's third choice right back, because he's behind Trent, and to be honest, I'd nearly put him 4th choice behind Gomez as well.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at this, like the imperfection here, stating about the rootlessness. Where did we state it? About the rootlessness that you mentioned, Kev. But if we actually had transfers coming through to replace the depth, I'm not defending skills, rather lack of depth. If they're good enough, get the good. I'm assuming it means get the good players. But the depth side of it, and I'll let you answer it as well, Kev. The depth side of it doesn't really come into play. Bobby Clark was like the 8th string centre midfielder. He's never getting a game without an injury crisis. And he would have been 9th if we brought in another midfielder. But Sepp is like 5th choice centre back. Fabio Carvalho was maybe 3rd to 4th choice 10. And on the wings, there's not a hope of him getting in there because you have so many people that are there. But I'd imagine, Kev, you'd be of the same opinion of needing this ruthlessness.
It is, but I think what's different from last season to this season is we had Europa League, and that gave us an opportunity to give players, the fringe players and the squad players, a little bit more game time that they wouldn't necessarily get. The idea of us being in the Champions League is that you're using your best 11 week in, week out. You can't take risks in the Champions League, and we would never do that. Last season was beneficial to a lot of these players to get game time and for our squad, and it's one of the reasons why we did so well until the end of the season, and then we fell off a cliff. And that's where the Europa League came into its own for ourselves, because it helped us and benefited us getting that game that much time. I don't think we would have achieved or accomplished everything had we been in the Champions League as well.
Yeah.
Because I think it benefited us, and especially the group that we had. No disrespect to them, but we were well. We could play our under 8s basically, but in essence, you were able to play these players a lot more and give enough time for people to in our main 11 to take time away and don't have to play. That's great, but you're not going to get that every season, and we want Champions League football, and you need the players. That's why it's interesting for me. I don't know if it is for you, Stephen. Is the difference with the fitness coaches this season in comparison to what we've had under Klopp, and understand and seeing if these negating injuries that the likes of Alisson has, and Kanate and Jota, if that improves a lot, and maybe the change of style and the change of manager is going to benefit us even more with our main 11 staying more fitter than what they had done under Klopp, because of the gegenpressing compared to how we're playing now under Slot.
Yeah, and it kind of touches on the point that imperfections make it here. Gravenberch or Szoboszlai injured. What do we do then? Since Elliott comes in for Salah, Elliott will be coming in at 10. He won't be coming in for Salah. He can apply for depth with Salah as well. But Jones is also a midfielder that will come in there. You're forgetting Endo as well. Bradley for Trent. We sell Sepp van den Berg, Joe. We only have Virgil van Dijk to time manage, biscuit legs, Konate, and a young Kwanzaa. Again, you're sort of forgetting the context that it's not going to be 110 miles an hour heavy metal football this season as it was compared to other seasons. There's been a change in the fitness staff. There's been a change in football style. There's been a change in so many different things that's going to affect the style that we play. We're going to be letting the ball do an awful lot more work rather than just pressing consistently. We're going to be looking to have possession over teams 60 to 70% of the time. And the only times that we won't have that will be against the likes of Arsenal and City. And that's, 4 times in a season that we'll be playing them. And then obviously you have your Champions League games as well as you get further into it too. But realistically, you're going to see a massive drop-off in injuries this season. Massively. Last year was cataclysmic in regards to who we lost and how long we lost him for. Trent Alexander-Arnold was on for player of the season until he got his injury. Curtis Jones was playing well until he got his injury. Andy Robertson was playing well, and then he went out of it for 13 weeks or something like that, which is nuts in a Premier League season. It's basically no season at all. Then you had Szoboszlai that was injured. McAllister was injured. Nunes was out for a while. Salah was out for a while. And that's why we had so many Allison, Kelleher and Allison played the same amount of games last season. Like that shows you how badly bet we were with injuries last season. Look at the opposite side of the coin and you look at Arsenal. 6 of the top 10 in the Premier League last season in minutes played across all competitions were Arsenal players. That was Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Raya, Saka, and Declan Rice. That's essentially their entire spine up the middle of the pitch, and their 2 of their wingers essentially, in Ben White and Saka, and their keeper. They had 75% of their, or 80% of their back 5, including the keeper, there for the entire season, which is why they were so good defensively. We actually scored way more goals than Arsenal in all competitions. The only issue is we conceded more. If we conceded less than half a goal less per game throughout the whole season, we would have won everything. That's how close it was, and it's because we got bet with injuries. And I think people seem to forget that, of how actually close it was. We only missed out on a Premier League title by 9 points. We got shafted in 3 different games, 2 of which against Arsenal and Man City, with penalty decisions that should have gone our way. And then you take into account the Spurs game as well. They could have very easily been 6-point swings against City and Arsenal, and could have been another 3 points on top of it. It is that simple. And imperfection, that spine of Virgil van Dijk, Trent and Salah is going to be getting their contracts after the window ends. It's one or the other. You either focus on transfers during the window or you focus on contracts during the window. It's very hard to focus on both, because then you're spreading yourself way too thin. It's one or the other, and the players are going to want to see what the team looks like under Slot as it is at the moment. But we are going to move on to the last topic of the day, and that is in relation to a new goalkeeper. Speaking of Allison, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure your notifications are on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. And make sure, if you're currently watching over on Twitter or X at the moment, jump over to our YouTube page and give us a like and give us a subscribe as well. Very much appreciated. It really helps out the channel. We very much appreciate it. But Mamardashvili, the Georgian wonder kid of a goalkeeper that apparently lit the world on fire at the Euros, the deal is getting closer and closer and closer in relation to coming to Liverpool. However, some mediumly reliable sources coming out of Spain have indicated that there may be a hijack on the cards in the near future with Man United, for some reason, God knows, looking to come in and try and hijack the deal from Liverpool, considering it seems to be stalling a little bit now. I don't know where it's stalling myself, but I'll open it up to the panel and we'll have a look at him in a little bit more detail. And Kings, I'll come to you first on this one. United that bought Onana a year ago, do you think this is agent leaking this information and a poorly informed agent, or do you think that there's any legs to this kind of an rumor?
Well, I got to put it bluntly, I think this is just crap social media talk, because I don't even think he's an agent that's serious. I mean, let's go back a little bit to Onana coming in for United. Now, I'm not being funny. David De Gea is probably just signed for something. He hasn't had football for a year. and he's still better than Onana. Why they brought him in, I have no idea. It's a complete joke. That's my opinion because he's a United player anyway. But just watching him in games, he's terrible. So I could understand why they may be looking at different options. As for, there was rumours that potentially Chelsea are in for him. It's like, if he ever considered going to Chelsea, he's a mug. Because as we've discussed, they've got like 500. They've got 500 people on their books, kind of thing, and they just can't have everybody. Liverpool does seem the best option, and of course, I'm going to sound biased saying that because I'm a Liverpool fan. But he's a young. What is he? 23, so he's got lots of time in the game to grow. And when it first came out, I was like, why do we need another goalkeeper? We've got Kelleher and we've got Alisson, and they both, like you said, they played pretty much the same games last year, and they've actually, Kelleher stepped up when we needed him to. And I thought to myself, we don't really need another one, but I can see the long-term thinking of what the club are doing. Loan him back, get more experience still, and in a couple of years when Alisson is ready to say, listen, I've had enough, I'm going to Saudi, I'm going back to Brazil, whatever, then we would have somebody who's come in and worked alongside him, and eventually we'll just move straight into the number one slot, you'd hope. Yeah. Now, again, he could move in and be like Onana. I don't think he is, but you never know until they play in the Premier League. It's all right. It's the same as we were saying earlier with the defender. He's got all the right stats. Whether when he gets to the Premier League, it actually transfers to the field is a different thing. But you'd like to think they've done their homework enough that he seems like a calculated risk, I suppose.
Yeah.
It does come across that he would be the right kind of signing. The money isn't ridiculous, £100 million for a goalkeeper because he's younger. And I think everybody seems happy with this. I cannot see him going to Man United because they're a basket case at the moment. They're ridiculous there. And I can't see him going to Chelsea. So at the end of the day, to me, the only place he should go is to us. After all that.
Realistic, but like the logic is sound in it. And Tom, one of the sort of worrying thoughts that comes from this, as Jamie has mentioned, surely that means Alisson has told the club that he'll be leaving. And that for me is a bit of a worrying thought myself. But it's Paul, the only reason PSV are battering our under 21s is because they're annoyed that we didn't sell them Sepp van der Berg for peanuts so they can go and shite. Tom, that is a scary thought that Alisson will be leaving. But unfortunately, it is the reality. He's not going to be here forever. He will eventually leave either by his own means or he will retire here. One or the other. The end is coming for him in the next 5 to 6 years. And if you look at, by the time it hits 2030, and hopefully Slot is still here and we've won a couple of things, you won't have Alisson, you won't have Salah, you won't have Van Dijk, you probably won't have Trent. He may end up leaving by the time he hits 30. The team in 2030 compared to now will look vastly different to what it is now. So it's a hypothetical that I'll throw to you. Do you think Alisson stays and runs out his deal and leaves summer 2025 and then goes and plays his last 2 years of his deal or whatever it is, the last year of his deal? He finishes in 2027. So stays this year, stays next year, and then just goes on a loan back to Brazil, similarly to what Thiago Silva has done. He doesn't seem like the type to go to Saudi, does he?
No. To be honest with you, I struggle to get excited by this signing. I mean, you don't see it's future-proofing, but number one, it's not addressing obviously what we need now. Obviously, he's not going to be playing the team now. There's a glaring hole in the team which needs addressing. And we're buying a goalie, which again, I like the idea of future-proofing, but there's a glaring hole in the team right now. I'd rather us address that, really. And obviously, it's the reality that Alisson will be leaving sooner rather than later. This talk of him going on loan for 3 years, I can't see that happening at all. Like, why would he leave a good club in the league to be shipped out on loan for 3 years? I just can't see him doing that. So I think for me, if he comes in, Alisson's going next year probably, which I don't like the sound of. So that's why I kind of struggle to get excited about this signing. But obviously, he seems like a good goalie. He's got that frame about him, which I really like. Like the Alisson type frame. He makes himself big in the goal, which is obviously massive. So yeah, I like the idea of it, but yeah, just worries me a bit, the idea of Alisson leaving, and he's still quite young for a goal. He's only 32 for a goal. That's not.
Oh, it's baby. That's he's still in his prime years as a keeper. I completely agree with you.
He's still got 4 or 5 top years left in him. So for me, I'd be gutted to see him go, in the next year or two. But I think if this story is true, then I think that will be the case.
I don't think he goes next summer. The way I see it playing out is him and Kelleher hang about for this summer. Mamardashvili stays on loan at Valencia for this year. And then next year, one of two things is going to happen. Mamardashvili is either going to go on loan to a Premier League team, or Kelleher's gone and he comes in as the second string to then learn the ropes in Liverpool as a second choice keeper. And then Alisson goes back to Brazil then in summer of 2026 for the 2026-2027 year. That's the way that I see it playing out, one way or the other. So either Kelleher goes next summer, or Kelleher, because I to be honest with you, selfishly, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place with Kelleher because he's a fellow countryman. I want to see him starting as number one for Ireland, but that would mean he needs to leave Liverpool, and then I don't want him to leave Liverpool because he starts for every team not named Liverpool or Man City in the Premier League, without question. He's one of the best keepers with the ball at his feet. He's better than Alisson with the ball at his feet. And if I was to ask a lot of people in the chat, and I know for a fact I've asked this before and they've all gotten it wrong, if you would consider him left-footed or right-footed, nobody can give you the right answer because he looks equally as comfortable with his left and his right, which is ironically what I think Slot would have wanted in a keeper. If Alisson wasn't here, I think he would have been keeping Kelleher and putting €100 million price tag on him. But Kev, you asked me to do something earlier before the stream, so we'll get into it now. I have it all here. Been working on it while we were all chatting away. So I'm going to bring it all up because you wanted to have a look at Mamardashvili's stats and how he compares to Alisson and 𝗗𝗥𝗢𝗣𝗘𝗏 at certain points of their careers. So we'll have a quick look here. So this is Mamardashvili currently at the moment. In the last 365 days against keepers over 3,000 minutes, these are his percentiles. He obviously in the lighter sort of a blue, shot stopping, his distribution in the dark blue, and then in the more magenta purple, you have then his passing and handling. This would be essentially how he would pair as a keeper. Looking at that, it seems that he's fairly decent. What would you think of him currently so far, just looking at this?
As I said to you before, Steve, I think he's a very good shot stopper and has similar stats possibly to 𝗗𝗥𝗢𝗣𝗏𝗏, but he's not good with his feet where Alisson is. And that's probably one of his weaknesses that Mamardashvili has. That's how I see it. I see him more closer to an 𝗗𝗥𝗢𝗏𝗏 kind of keeper than an Alisson keeper. I don't know if you agree or if the stats agree with that.
I'll show you Alisson first. So this is Alisson, as you asked for, in his last year in the Serie A before coming to us with Roma. And as you can sort of see, pass completion percentage, save percentage, everything. It seems to be one of them things that Alisson seems to be a little bit better with the ball at his feet, which is something that can be coached into a player. That's not the issue, and especially with a goalkeeper whose shelf life is an awful lot longer. But you said he's an awful lot like 𝗗𝗥𝗢𝗏𝗏, and we're just going to take a look at this because it's pretty fucking accurate when you take a look at it. Because it aims up really well. If you look at it, they have the same deficiencies, that sort of a way. And this was when he was in La Liga back in 2018, similar year to Alisson as well, when they were the two sort of big keepers at the time. And as we were discussing Andre Onana, just to take a quick look, he's not going to be Andre Onana. We don't have to worry about that whatsoever. We're fine on that side of things. Andre Onana is better with the ball at his feet, but he's shite at the ball at his feet, so I wouldn't really worry about that. But interestingly, you mentioned with Jan 𝗗𝗥𝗢𝗏𝗏, shot blocking seems to be one of the best things that he has. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. Like the ball to the feet, you can kind of coach into a player. So how do you feel about him with these comparisons?
I'll be honest, I am very, very happy and ecstatic. The irony is, as Tom alluded to before, we are foresighting a certain position over a position that's highly comical that we are looking for, but can't seem to find a play for. My only flip side to that is that Alisson wins us the league. It wins us the European Cup. He wins us. I know everyone talks about Virgil van Dijk. I think the most influential player has been Alisson since we signed him. You sign Alisson, we win everything, and that's what's happened. And that's what you need. If it goes with what I think of. You never win nothing with a mediocre goalkeeper. So I think if we still had Mignolet in goal or we had Karius in goal, we would not have won what we have done. I think that Napoli chance that in the Champions League, that gets scored and we go out. I don't think we win the league. I think the percentage of what Alisson's won points-wise per season, even though he hasn't played a full 38 games, I don't think, under Klopps since he's been here, it goes a long way to pointing as to why we win what we do. You have a good goalkeeper, and that sets you up for the rest. Everywhere else can be bought. One person that is scrutiny, and if an error happens, costs you, and that's a goalkeeper for me. And a goalkeeper will always win you the league. I'd sooner have a very good goalkeeper and a mediocre midfield or whatever. It doesn't matter. You've got a shot stopper in like an Oblak. What does that say to opposing strikers? I have to find the corners. A lot of the time they'll miss. A lot of the time they fear the fact that they've got to go through a centre half, which they've had to do, which is Virgil. And once you get through him, you've got to again go and be one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And Alisson, it makes it a little bit difficult for the mindset of a striker, and that's why he wins us countless games on his own. It saves that he does. Kelleher does it to a certain degree, but I agree with you. I'm in a similar position with Kelleher, and I think this is kind of setting the stall out to Kelleher to say we instead of throwing all our eggs in one basket with yourself, we're going a little bit further. We're going to gamble with not only one but two of you. So there's a competition. I agree with you. I think he'll be on loan for 2 seasons, and then he'll come back in the season that Alisson goes to Brazil and sets up his own Catholic priesthood kind of thing and does something there. And we all live happily ever after. I can see that happen. And I wouldn't be. It wouldn't hurt me if that's the case. The frustration is what Tom has alluded to, is that we're crying out for the 6, but we're foresighting certain players. But I'm quite happy with them. I don't know if you agree with where I came from at the start of this, and the stats back up what I say. So I'd like to know what you think about this thing.
No, keepers are my bread and butter. I absolutely, because I played goalkeeper all my life. I know exactly what it's like. I know I've played against guys that have played against Kelleher, and I played like everything, like from town level to near national level. I've played in goal, like so. It is one of the hardest positions to get right on a football pitch. A keeper, similarly to it's people that haven't played in goal or played as a keeper will never understand what it takes to be one, and not alone what it takes to be one, what it takes to be the top one, to be the 1% of the 1%, which is what Alisson is. It is ridiculously hard. You are the last line of defense. To give everybody an idea of how it works with a goalkeeper, and it's difficult to comprehend if you haven't played there. You're working off such limited information in such a tight space, and your reaction times have to be like a cat. It is genuinely otherworldly, and there's been times I've made saves in a goal where I'm like, I had no idea what that was, and you just went off pure instinct and quick reaction, and it happened. And there was an interesting study that was done by a college in Dublin, University College Dublin, UCD, where an ex-Ireland goalkeeper done a study across goalkeepers across Gaelic football and across football as well, where it studied their brains as they develop from a kid to an adult. And a goalkeeper's brain develops differently because of how they have to process information. They become very quick problem solvers, very technical people that would work in the likes of construction or engineering, and they're very they can work off very limited information and find a solution to it. Because if you think about it, you're a goalkeeper and you see a shot come in from the 6-yard box, you have to see where that ball is, guess where that's going in a fraction of a second based off a blink of an eye image in your brain being registered, and then hearing the sound of the goal, guessing where it's going to go between 3 or 4 people's legs, and diving to that spot all in probably a third of a second. And it's absolutely nuts. And you need to get that position right. And as you rightly said, Kev, if you get that position right, that wins you games, and that wins you trophies and wins you leagues.
Absolutely.
Kelleher in the Carabao Cup final is prime example of it.
Exactly. And that's what you need. You look at Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale is. Everyone was wax lyrical over him and Rayo's, whoever their goalkeeper is now, the number 1. I don't think they're good enough. I think there's errors in all of them, and there's an error in every goalkeeper. I think, but there's less of the degree when Alisson's in goal, and there's times where Kelleher last season a ball goes in, and everyone 9 times out of 10 was like Alisson would save that, and that's the problem you've got. I think for Kelleher's sake, I think he does need to move and prove himself elsewhere as a number 1, because I think he can do it. And I think what we're asking for him is not overpriced. I think it's underpriced for what he's capable of doing. And he can go out and be capable. I think us is sending a message to Kelleher going, if you don't make this, we've got him. So we're backing ourselves, but we're betting on black as well as red, rather than just going with one. And I made up doing it with the goalkeeper. And I understand where Tom's coming from, but for me, I think if we get this right, that this team would be even better with another good goalkeeper as good as what Alisson is, and an upgrade, and to have someone of a similar level of an All Black as well, just makes you feel more comfortable as a centre half playing in front. Going, well, you're not going to score. I'll let you have a shot. And so for me, I think there's certain positions on a pitch that you do need to take that extra bit of care and time and gamble on. And this is why, for foresight wise, I think this is the prime position for you to do that. For me personally.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's the hardest position to get right. And if you get it right, you have your goalkeeper set for 10 years. And that's a position you will never touch again for another decade. It is that. And essentially, it's been similar to that with Alisson. We got him in summer of 2018. It's been 6 years, and he still probably has another 2-3 years in him. So we're going to be sitting on 8 years as the one goalkeeper. And then now all of a sudden he's going to be taken over by Kelleher, who's either going to show up or shut out, or it's going to be taken over by Mamardashvili, who's one of the best young goalkeepers in the world at the moment, along with Kelleher. It's nuts foresight. But again, it's all well and good signing somebody who's going to be here for us in 2 years. We also need somebody that's going to be here for us this season, and that is where a lot of people's frustrations lie. And I completely understand that as well. But we are going to end it there, guys. We've just gone over nearly an hour and 10 minutes as it is at the moment. But I want to thank everybody for watching us this evening. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit the notifications button to make sure that you never miss out on all future streams and videos. The only big news of today is that Harvey Blair has been sold to Portsmouth for 300,000. That was confirmed by David Lynch earlier today. Hope everybody has a wonderful evening this evening, and we will see you guys next time.